The politics of Brazil are completely different than those of the other Latin American countries. Brazil had a peaceful transition from colony to independent country. They had no major independence war and only minor rebellions every now and again that were swiftly crushed. They gained their independence by signing a treaty to become independent from Portugal, since the ruler of Brazil was the son of the current king of Portugal. The current king of Portugal did not want to go to war with his son, hence the treaty. There were only two kings in the Empire of Brazil. Pedro I, who was the son of the king of Portugal, and Pedro II, which was the son of Pedro I, reigned for only 60 years.
In order to understand early independent Brazilian trade, not only did Brazil trade with Portugal as one of its main trading partners, but in order for everything to get through, past, and through the rest of Brazil, you needed the Amazon River. Now, the Amazon River is very important because it's one of the largest rivers in the world, if not the largest river, and it has the fastest steady flow at some points at a record rate of 206,000 cubic meters a second. Now, this is important because in some parts of the river, it is extremely fast, and in other parts of the river, it is extremely slow, which is why we're going to have a huge use of steam-powered boats when they're invented, and also this river and also the railroad really kick off the trading, the interstate trading between the states of Brazil. Now, coffee is easily seen as the biggest export in Brazil. It was even in 1852, it accounted for 63% of the country's exports. The cultivation of coffee in further away parts led to the construction. Also, it boosted up the traffic on the Amazon River, which also led to railroads. Because of coffee, an entrepreneurial class established in Rio de Janeiro during the mining surge was able to induce the government to help create basic conditions for the expansion of coffee.
Brazil's race is seen in three different ethnicities. The south of Brazil is the region with the largest percentage of whites. The eastern region of Brazil is the most ethnically diverse part of the country. Whites make up about 55% of the population, while the mixed race makes about 35%, and the African descent makes about 8%. Northern Brazil, largely covered by the Amazon rainforest, is a Brazilian region with the largest Amerindian influences both in culture and ethnicity. Inhabited by diverse indigenous tribes, this part of Brazil was reached by Portuguese and Spanish colonists in the 17th century. Religion. Brazil has the largest number of Catholics in the world. Roman Catholicism. In the 16th century, it was introduced among the native Brazilians by Jesuit missionaries and also observed by all the Portuguese first settlers.
Beginning of Brazil's history, slavery has been an extremely detrimental factor in its growth and expansion. So unlike other Latin American countries, after Brazil became independent from Portugal, they made no movements towards the abolishment of slavery. The reason Brazil was so against abolishing slavery as a whole at first was probably due to the fact that the majority of work done in sugarcane and mining sectors was done almost exclusively by the slaves. Like almost every single country that has ever had slaves, Brazil went through several slave revolts, the most notable of this era being the Bahia Muslim slave revolt in 1835. Although the revolt did not go entirely as planned, it did shake up the community since it was much stronger than anticipated. The Muslim slaves marched out of their mosques and onto the streets of Salvador, where they would gather other slaves to join them in the revolt. Eventually, over 1,000 professionally armed soldiers met up against revolutionaries and thus commenced a battle which killed 100 Africans and 14 Brazilian soldiers. Although it did at first appear to be a failure, some revolutionaries were sent back to Africa from fear of them beginning another revolt, so it could in a way seem to be a small victory. Yet regardless of this, Brazil's culture was so dependent upon slavery that it was not abolished until 1888.